Good evening, everyone. My name is Mandi and I'm a reporter in Cape Town. Tonight, we are speaking about a very sensitive topic, water and sanitation. So with us, we've got the MMC for Water and Sanitation, Dr. Zahid Badroodien. Should I call you doctor or just councillor?
No,
Doctor.
Zahid is good. Zahid is good.
Okay, fine. So
We,
welcome,
we're,
everybody.
we're friends tonight. We're friends tonight.
Thank you for that. So, with the storms that have hit Cape Town in the last few weeks, we've seen a lot of sewer overflow, and Zahid will be explaining to us what his role is as the MMC for Water and Sanitation. Zahid, can you just explain what your role is? Because I think that there is an overlap somewhere
Yeah.
there, with especially with stormwater
Yes.
drains and
Yeah.
so can you just explain?
Perfect. So I'm the member of the Mayoral Committee for Water and Sanitation. And so essentially, I'm the political principal that looks after an extensive network of pipes and pump stations, essentially, that does two things. The first is to get water from the dams where they're being purified and made safe enough for us to drink. Pumping that all the way to homes is the one arm of water and sanitation. And then the second arm of this directorate is the sanitation component, which is after you shower, after you go to the toilet, after you wash your dishes, wash cars, all of those things. That water then needs to be pumped to our wastewater treatment works, and then purified before it gets discharged into the ocean. But in that entire length of pipe, so many things go wrong, unfortunately. And so we put a lot of effort into not only maintaining our infrastructure, but also engaging more with residents to talk about what our role is and what their role is to both use the water and sanitation systems correctly. In terms of the question you asked, the overlap between or where does water and sanitation play its role with flooding? So on the roads, residents will know that there's the road gullies that drain the water through the channel. All of that belongs to urban mobility. Underneath the road is the stormwater system, and the stormwater systems run to canals or run to rivers. The canals and the rivers become the responsibility of water and sanitation, which is not necessarily an arm, but still an important component of the work that we do in the city. And maybe we can touch on some of that excellent interventions we're currently undertaking. So it's a partnership. Roads looks after the stormwater on the roads. We look after the canals and the rivers itself.
Okay, because on Friday, I think it was Friday when it was storming, and I heard your name several times. Where is Badroodien now? What is he doing now? So, do people actually understand what you do and who you are?
You know, I always say we must never blame the residents for not knowing who does what specifically in the city of Cape Town. It shouldn't matter. They shouldn't care, as long as we're doing our jobs. But here we have an opportunity to explain that even though the rain is blessing us with water, not all water belongs to water and sanitation. But obviously, it's a reflex to assume that anything water must come to Badroodien. And that's fine, because I don't say, not my problem. I help them. Guys, do you have a reference number? Can I help you to log the reference number? Let me get it to the right team. Because we have an approach in my office in water and sanitation that when residents approach me as the MMC for water and sanitation, they're coming to me because either they're very desperate, haven't received any assistance for their reference number, or they're trying to cut a queue. and they want quick escalation of a problem, but that we can easily see when we check on the system when a reference is logged. Like just as an example, today we're dealing with a sewer escalation for something that was logged a few days ago, and it shouldn't take so long. And so we try within reason to escalate where we can. But yeah, residents don't necessarily always know the difference, but it's not their fault. It's our job to make sure that they understand.
Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, he's taking the blame for that. So maybe you should communicate more with the residents. But talk to me
Yeah.
about the sewer overflow, because I mean, I've done a lot of stories when I was still at the Daily Voice. I did a lot of stories about sewer overflow in people's yards, and some were businesses and some were just like, normal homes. And recently I received a message from a resident in Manenberg telling me that, look, there is a problem in my yard and
Yeah.
it's been like this forever. We worried about, diseases or whatsoever, that may come from all of that. So in those cases, what do you do? What do people need to do to avoid that also?
Yeah, and so I always, whenever I have this kind of discussion, I always ask a community meeting if whether or not they know what happens to the sewage after they flush the toilet. Because I see in some communities, it's a matter of out of sight, out of mind, whatever else happens doesn't matter. So now my audience, and so I'm going to put you on the spot if you don't mind, in terms of what happens. And if you don't know, you can call a friend, and then I'll answer.
It's not a friend. I'm calling you.
And I always try and understand what the level of insight into the system is, not to try and show, oh, Zahid's more clever, but so that I know how much detail I need to explain. And so let me ask you, you're in the bathroom, you're doing a number one, number two, and you flush the toilet. What happens?
Goes down some pipe and then it goes down some drain and then it disappears. I think mine in this area goes to what's this area in Athlone?
Athlone wastewater.
Yes.
Cool.
Not Q Town, Bokmakiri.
Yeah, the big wastewater on the corner of Jan Smuts and the N2. Cool. So I think we're almost neighbors because my number one and two go to the same wastewater. but you're there. So essentially, you flush the toilet, and I really want to try and make my 3Ps go viral: pee, poo, and toilet paper. The only three things that should go into toilets. I see in some fancy communities we're using now wet wipes because it's nice and soft and it's gentle on our nether regions. But these things block our pipes, and they don't degrade. So pee, poo, and paper we're flushing down our toilets. This then goes, you won't even imagine, but the total length of the sewer network alone, not even including water, is about 10,000 kilometers in our city. So all of the sewer network in our city is about 10,000 kilometers. When I started in this position and they were briefing me, they put up a map and they said, Councillor, 10,000 kilometers is from Cape Town to Germany. That is how long our sewer network in our city is alone. And so, because in some areas like where you and I live, in the Cape Flats, there's a it's the Cape Flats. So the sewage can't drain through gravity. The system must now pump. And so, how do we do that? We pump through pump stations. And so we've got about 700 odd pump stations, water and sewer pumps in our city. And you can imagine, and I was looking for some pictures now because as I was preparing for your interview, I wanted to be as visual as possible. That when
You're not going to show us poop, ne?
no, no, no. I try to be sensitive, but I can. I've got pictures of that too.
Thank you. Thank you.
And so the sewage then travels a long journey. But in that journey, our pump stations, screens, pumps, all the way to the wastewater. And there again, we've got pumps and we've got screens. So when we are throwing, I'm going to try now, I hope it works. But when we are throwing,
Can I want to maximize your screen so that, okay.
so when people are throwing things like this, you can see it, it's a rock.
Oh,
When people are throwing rocks into our sewer system, then we have people like our officials, our hardworking officials, who have to do all of these things to pull out rocks, to pull out mattresses, to pull out
mattresses.
mattresses in Hines Park, close to Mitchell's Plain. For the viewers who don't know, someone stuffed a whole palm tree into that sewer pipe. Now, obviously, the team can't pull out the palm tree because it just doesn't work. They had to cut out that whole pipe and replace that section of the pipe. And for all of those days that they had to isolate that section because the sewage can't flow out and there was only one way out of that community, the overflows that were happening in Hines Park are just unconscionable. But the kind of vandalism that we're experiencing, and I've got another picture here, you'll see it maybe closer up. That's rags, cloth and newspaper, and all kinds of things that are being dumped into our network. Causes these overflows, essentially, predominantly. And so that is the biggest struggle that we have in the city. In Mitchell's Plain, if I can use an example, the Swartklip line. It's a huge sewer line, very big sewer line. And now I don't have pictures of those things here, but we were pulling out planks, wooden planks that were stuffed down into the sewer network, and I suspect intentionally. And why I say that is because when I had a community meeting in Montrose Park earlier in this week or last week, the community members and the neighborhood watchers use words like sabotage, vandalism. They're telling me that they see that this is happening in their networks. And so I will accept, because we also have a role to play in the city, that our infrastructure is aged, that our infrastructure in some communities needs to be replaced, which we're currently undertaking through various means, and we can go into some detail there, and that there are in some areas collapses which we need to get to. But so too, as we are rolling out and ramping up our pipe replacements, we need to make sure that we're using the sewer network for what it is supposed to be. And I wish, and maybe one day, Mandi, you must come with me to the Langa pump station. You will see, and I'll share the video with you that was shared with me.
Get a mask?
You can get the mask, or I'll bring you one just in case you shudder there as you go. But you will be impressed by the scale of the infrastructure. You'll never think that on the corner of the N2 as you come onto Jansmans, there's a building that goes almost 5 stories deep. It's amazing. But the foreign objects that we need to keep out of our systems at that pump station, as an example, it's mind-boggling. So we really are going on a campaign, essentially, where we're using the slogan of don't be a pain in the drain, because we must just, again, coming back to the 3 Ps, put into those systems pee, poo, and paper. So your question, sorry, I now gave a long explanation and I showed pictures and everything. I want to show you, I want to show you this one. This one. Can you see all of that? All of that rocks and construction rubble, all of that, which we pulled out of a drain, and that someone is not flushing that into a toilet. That's being thrown into the toilet. And so I come back to the question that you're asking, what are the causes of these overflows? The biggest challenge at the moment is foreign objects, misuse of our sewer systems. In some areas we have sewer collapses because of the age, and that we attend to as well. And so there's a two-part relationship here. use the systems for what it's meant, for what it's designed, and we will upgrade and invest in our infrastructure as we currently are.
I don't know if we should take questions because you've said a lot. I think let's just open. We'll open for like a minute. If there isn't a question, then we will continue because I have a question and I have a question. So anybody, do you guys have any questions for Dr. Badroodien before we continue? Because I have a lot of questions. I am very interested in what he's saying. Foreign objects are the enemy of the drain, are the pain of the drain, right?
Yes, exactly.
So
And what is the friend of the drain? The three P's: pee, poo, and toilet
I'm not
paper.
saying the three P's. I'm not.
You must help to make it go viral. You'll see you're going to drive on the N2 one day and those digital boards are going to have pee, poo, and paper. And then you'll know, you'll know I dreamt it up here
Please do not do that,
sitting on your
Klaus.
interview. And I'll go, thank you, Mandi. Tune in on a Wednesday, 7 p.m.
Okay. There's a question. I want to know what plan the city has for Samora, because they're flooding. I've seen a lot of pictures, with Samora. Thank you, Ntombi, for bringing this up because it's really a pain. And even this weekend after that rain, so what is the plan with that?
Yeah, great question. Samora Machel is one of those communities that really have, I would say, been plaguing me since the beginning of my term, for the reason that the councillor in the area is very frustrated by the fact that there are ongoing sewer overflows in that community. And you see it as you drive down our Tambo Drive into Samora Machel. It's horrible. The sewage, or rather, let's say, grey water running down through the main road, causing immense damage to the road infrastructure. Just as an example, the listeners from Samora Machel will know the clinic very well, and that circle at the clinic is so problematic because of how damaged that road has become. And I recall about 3 or 4 years ago, the clinic actually took a decision to close because it was simply not safe for their staff to drive into the community. And it's funny because 3 or 4 years ago, I was the MMC for community service. And so I was supporting the closure of the clinic because it made sense from a safety perspective. But now I'm in water and sanitation. So I know about the struggles and I've got to fix the problem now. And so there are a number of issues here, Mandi. The first one, and we must be honest about it. I think you want me to be frank about these things. As you're driving into the community, you and I both know the challenge of waste disposal in Samora Machel, and your listeners as well. Along the main road, anywhere there's an open space, there is dumping, piles of dumping. And it's clear that the city comes in, they use the excavators, they remove the dumping, it leaves the ditches in the area, and it's just filled again. Now, yes, I accept that the waste production is at a higher volume than what the city is potentially removing, and so should maybe add additional frequency of removal so that we could reduce waste or even incentivize recycling and so on. Different directorate, but I know that it is something that they are looking into. Further to that, Mandi, if you look very closely, how many washing pipes can you count opening up into the main road? Washing machine pipes opening up into the main road. So someone has a hairdresser, or maybe has a pipe coming all the way from where they live, draining onto the main road. And that's anything from kitchen sink water onto the main road, or buckets being dumped onto the main road. And we know this because there's rice, there's bones, there's millies, there's everything that is at the stormwater drain. And the interesting point here, Mandi, is that in the main road of Samora Machel, there's actually no sewer system. Because the main road of Samora Machel is sort of like a watershed. And so on the sides of the main road, the water then, the drainage is away from the main road. I don't know if I'm making sense. So in some communities, the main roads are used as the main location for the main pipe out of the area. But in Samora Machel, it's divided into different sections, and then the different sections link onto the main pipe, which is the Swartklip line. And remember, I mentioned Swartklip earlier, and the dumping in Mitchell's Plain, which causes the overflows all the way up into Samora Machel, depending on how bad the misuse of the system is. So what are we doing about Samora Machel? Because I accept there is a problem there. Urban Mobility, our roads colleagues, have now come together, pulled water and sanitation together. And by the way, I took the executive director of water and sanitation, I took the executive director of urban mobility, a whole bunch of directors with me to Samora Machel, with the councillor and other officials. I said, guys, we're going to walk this area now. We're going to identify the problems. And I need you as officials to put options to solve this problem in Samora Machel, because it's simply not acceptable. So urban mobility is driving that process. That report is currently being prepared, but we're looking at options which may include lockable manhole covers, introducing decanting options for the community so that they don't have to decant onto the main roads, so that they can then connect ultimately to the sewer system. We're looking at introducing innovations like manhole protector grids, so that hopefully if there's a mesh in the drain and whatever's falling in is stopped by that mesh, and also looking at the network itself. So there's a lot of work that is currently underway there. I've briefed the councillor on this some time ago. I'm waiting for the final report to be issued to me so that I can then come back to the councillor, and even a community meeting, so that we can say to them, guys, here's our problem statement, here's our solutions, here's our challenges, and as we implement this over time, we can hopefully reduce the grey water runoff onto the main road, the sewer overflows. And I wish I printed my picture from when I was lost in Samora Machel. I will send you the picture. Buckets and buckets of teaspoons being pulled out of our sewer system in Samora Machel. Teaspoons. So maybe with a little disinfection, we can take it to the recycling market or something. But what I suspect is happening is that people are washing their dishes and they forget under the soapy water is the teaspoon, and then they chuck all of that into the drain, and that's how I end up being a teaspoon factory. So Samora Machel is a serious problem for me, and it's on my agenda on a monthly basis with my directors to try and solve as best as we can.
Okay, Ntombi, I hope you're satisfied with that lengthy answer. But it was very informative. No, it was actually very informative, because I also didn't know some of the things that you just said. We have a question from JJ. Can the councillor explain the role extortion plays in carrying out services in townships and the Cape Flats?
Extortion impacts us tremendously. I want to use in our informal settlements basic services space. And these guys provide taps and toilets to informal settlements. They've got to clean and they've got to maintain. Now, in some communities of Khayelitsha, the extortionists have become so brave, and it was in the media, I think it was in News 24 some time ago, where they write letters, dear so-and-so, we are so-and-so. In order to conduct your work here, you must pay us 10,000 Rand to clean a toilet or to maintain a tap. In Samora Machel, we had one incident when we were trying to fix a pipe repair, a sewer collapse. And there again, we were extorted for about 10,000 Rand. So there was a delays there. And in the meanwhile, sewage is overflowing. There are other instances where at the pump station here, JJ will know the road, Repulse Road, close to Belgravia, the side where the flay is. There's a pump station there. And one of our security guards was shot and they were killed on site. whilst we were attending to a pump station repair, and I got so many of these examples. So extortion really impacts us because it delays our ability to resolve issues or attend to issues as quickly as possible, which obviously then in this business leads to sewer overflows, leads to delay in service turnaround times, causes undignified circumstances for our residents. And the mayor has since established this extortion campaign. So where residents are aware of anything or suspect anything funny, must report it to that particular hotline. And our officials also have very regular engagements with safety and security, so these risks can be flagged. Can I say that water and sanitation in this current financial year, we've set aside 40 million rand, just let that sink in, 40 million rand for security to support our officials who go to areas like Menenberg, areas like Heinz Park, parts of Mitchell's Plain. I can go on and on, simply for them to do their job. Now that's 40 million rand we could have used for more taps, more toilets, more. But we have to now use it to get someone with a gun to watch someone clean a pipe. What a waste of the law enforcement's time when there's real security issues across our city. Now they must stand still for hours to support operational team when actually gang violence is a reality in so many communities. And I know that there are my colleagues, council aldermen, who would much rather have that enforcement support in areas where it matters. But again, we've unfortunately encountered a reality that that in order for service delivery to happen in our most vulnerable communities, we must put aside this money and we must now budget for law enforcement to come and attend to us. So JJ, really significant impact from a cost perspective and a service delivery perspective. And I hope my examples have given some insight into that.
Okay. So there was a question that said maybe you should put in toilets with smaller holes. Something about a babies going down. I don't know. So is that possible to have toilets with smaller holes?
I want to make a funny joke,
No.
but I will. Look, I think from an engineering perspective, the toilets are designed to have a specific diameter for the realities around volume of water, pressure to flush it down. Because even the toilet itself is not a simple. I'm just going to quickly roll my paper here. It's not a simple pipe from the toilet down. It's a complicated pipe, and anybody who's put the toilet into their home will know what that back part of the toilet looks like. So I imagine there's a lot of thought that has gone into the size of the toilet, so that can then capacitate a certain volume, pressure, and then to get rid of it. Otherwise, the poo may get stuck in the toilet bowl, and I don't think anybody wants that problem. But your listener mentioned babies. Now, can I just say, just as an aside, you'd be shocked, but actually we find dead pit bulls in our sewer system as well. In Bonteville some time ago, baby pit bulls, 5 of them dumped into our sewer system. In our rivers, sometimes we come across dead bodies. In the Cape Flats wastewater treatment works, which is on the Strandfontein side of our city, there was a dead body a few months ago that got pumped all the way through the network and got stuck at what we call the head of work, so the very first point in the wastewater. Plant had to basically shut down to get the police out. So we find all of these things, and I don't think anybody would have thought that we're getting dead bodies, but it's scarily a common finding in our network.
Okay, so I think that's what the listener was trying to say,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
to avoid also, baby's remains,
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, moving on. There is a question here that says, you said that the last place will be going to the rivers. How come is it that the wastewater is entering rivers?
And that's a great question because maybe we can use it as a segue into the new water program in terms of how we're going to secure our water future, considering we're a growing city. I'd like to touch on that because there's some great stuff happening there. But yes, so think of the water cycle. We know that the rain comes onto our mountain, goes into the dam, evaporation, condensation. The same with the water life cycle that we use. So we get the water from the mountains, it gets purified, we open our taps, the water comes, we drink the water, we wash our dishes and it goes to the sewer. And so that dirty water has to go somewhere. It's not going into the ground. And we have to, as a responsible city, because it's a natural thing to do, have to purify the water, the effluent, to certain standards which are set by the national department and which we report on publicly through our portfolio committee reports on the national department's website. We publish these effluent discharge results before we put it into the river because it forms part of ultimately the river cycle we use, and we've got a discharge somewhere. When you're washing your dishes, the water doesn't disappear by magic. But there is a new water project which we are in the process and are almost at implementation stage of moving with international best practice and international trends to reuse ultra purified wastewater, which has been cleaned and then cleaned again and then mixed with dam or with mountain water before being used as drinking water. This is reused water. And for us, it sounds like a yucky thing because we're used to drinking beautiful mountain water, crystal clear mountain water, but we are in a changing climate space. And there's a growing community across the world that is that, and it's scientifically accepted, that in order for us to meet future water demands, we must diversify our water sources now. Because the mayor has been very clear, none of our residents in the city of Cape Town should ever face the reality of potentially standing in a queue for water, as we almost did during the drought. So that's one project. And so going back to the question, why do we discharge it into our waterways? Because ideally we treat it to a pristine status according to regulations, and then it forms part of the water cycle again. There are obviously concerns and challenges around it. The scientists who are watching will tell you, what about chemicals of emerging concern? What about forever chemicals, that which doesn't dissolve and so on? But there's technology to attend to these kinds of issues, which ultimately is built into our processes. Sorry, the water and sanitation answers is not a quick thing. Sometimes I must just give a little bit of background to the question just to make sense.
No, it's fine. I hope that she actually understands.
I hope.
Okay, so I just want to ask, there is another one. As of late, Tafelsig has been receiving shoddy workmanship. Oh, my bundles, workmanship when it comes to fixing water meters. I think now it says outside in the road when it breaks. So sorry, there's more. Is there is the contractor being investigated?
So thank you for mentioning that. And funnily enough, I had a meeting with our director just today talking about meter management. And so I really would appreciate if the viewer can share with me the specific details so that I can deal with that specific issue. I do know from time to time residents share with me these frustrations, and then I take it up and we resolve wherever it is. But it also means that the officials need to implement a certain level of quality assurance. And so any example really does help me bring this concern to the attention of the officials who manage these contracts so that we can prevent this from reoccurring for other residents. And so I do apologize that that was the experience, but thank you for bringing it to my attention. And if it is something that needs to be resolved, I'm happy to assist with that.
Okay, Mikulu Productions is asking, can you please ask, as they know what is going on in Samora, why is it difficult to provide trucks?
What trucks?
Mikulu, can you just maybe explain what kind of trucks is this, like trucks for water or trucks to extract or to remove the waste? Or can you just please just explain that question? And I just want to see if maybe they did send anything else.
So maybe I can answer it. It's probably likely a question related to the sewer jetting and vacuuming, the suction tankers, because that's the main issue in Samora Machel. And fleet is not an issue. We are year on year are growing the number of combination vehicles, jetting trucks, suctioning trucks that we have at our disposal. So that's not the issue. The main issue why officials are cautious to go into communities like Samora Machel is because of the safety component and the extortion component. The city has also issued a directive to officials that in high risk or red zone areas, officials must not go into these communities without the necessary law enforcement, because our officials are being hijacked, our officials are having their equipment stolen, our officials are being shot, as I shared with you earlier. And so that does unfortunately cause a delay with vehicle availability, because we're dependent on safety and security support.
Okay. No way wastewater can be discharged into the nearby rivers. Okay, I think you've gone through that. And then JJ asked something about desalination, which was a big thing, on our road to day zero. And now it's just quiet. There's nothing about that.
Yeah.
Is the city still using a very expensive equipment which we bought? What's happening with our equipment?
Yeah, so we actually didn't buy it. It was hired for the period of the drought. So we've never had a permanent desalination plant in our city. It was and so this was before my time, but it was at Strandfontein, and it was at, I think it was Munwapisi, I'm not sure. Yeah. And so those were hired. And there was one at the waterfront as well, but that was problematic at the time. And we went through a legal process regarding that. So we are now on an exciting journey of what we call the new water program. So I'm going to just chuck that in to move away from sewer if it's possible. And so as I was saying earlier, that we're a growing city. We know more businesses want to invest in our city. More residents are moving to our city. We're about to, if not have already passed 5 million residents in our municipality. And currently our only water source are our dams, so our surface water. And we know that but when another drought comes our way, between 2018 and that happening, we need to make sure we've made the right investments to protect our water security in the future. So on the one hand, we're removing alien invasive plants. And for your residents who sometimes go on holiday, for your listeners who go over Salauri's past the Steenbras Dam, may recall years back with trees trees all over the dam, and over time, more recently, the trees being removed. And I must say, before I was in water and sanitation, I thought, but we're supposed to love trees. What's happening to these trees? But actually, those trees around the dam were alien trees. And so what was happening was the trees were sucking the water up from the dam, using that water in the dam. And so we have now removed those alien invasive trees in our priority catchment areas, Wemmershoek, Steenbras, so that as much water as possible from the rains is running down the catchment into the dams so that we can secure our surface water. But we are replacing those trees with fynbos and natural inhabitants of that particular biome. So we're not getting rid of it. Then we have the issue of aquifers. Now, aquifers are underground water. Now, did you know that in that area of the Steenbras Dam, we have what is called, it's very confusing, the Table Mountain Group Aquifer. You hear Table Mountain, you think, oh, it's Table Mountain, but actually it's Table Mountain Group on that side. There's a huge body of water in that particular mountain that we are also soon going to be accessing to top up our dams. And here we have to replace and be very responsible with how we use the water. We have one in Atlantis, which we've been using for many, many years. And in the other one, closer to home, the Cape Flats Aquifer. So in the general Skarpkraal region, there's a huge aquifer underneath, which the farmers access and which we will access as well. And so there we will be abstracting and putting in a cycle of water. So that's the other source. The next one is desalination. So I've given you two new projects for the new water program. Alien invasive removal, we have aquifer abstraction, and now the question of desalination. And so for those listeners who don't know, desalination is basically purifying seawater to become drinking water. And we're making actually excellent progress on desalination, our first permanent one, at what is called the Pardon Island location. So as you're driving to the waterfront, in a few years' time, you'll see a huge desalination plant being built on that location. And then essentially, we're cleaning the seawater and we're injecting it into the reticulation network. And our objective is to have this online by 2030, which is basically around the corner. And so I'm quite excited about that because hopefully we're going to go into a public-private partnership. These are really expensive infrastructure. And so the question the mayor has is, how can we minimize the cost impact on our residents as far as possible? And so the officials are putting together different options in terms of how we can fund these programs, and a public-private partnership is one of them. So, JJ, we're making excellent progress there. And then the last one is the Fora New Water Program. And this has really put us on the map internationally, because it's going to be the biggest project of its kind on the African continent. And already we've received a lot of international interest around this. By the way, we already have water reuse projects in Beaufort West, already active. Namibia in Windhoek has been active since the 1960s. And about 2 years ago, the mayor invited other mayors from around the world to come have an international water reuse conversation. And that was very enlightening. Basically, everyone supporting the fact that we must go in that direction. So when residents ask, why are we paying so much money for a fixed charge? We're not seeing anything, any benefit. Remember, the fixed charge is not only an access charge because you are connected to the water network, but you also are helping to pay for this new water multi-billion rand infrastructure that can secure our water future. So I just now pulled all of that together.
Okay, so we have Mikulu said sewage trucks. Levisto is saying that the sewer trucks that sucks the sewer when there is a blockage. Look, I think that some of the things may not maybe be for you. I know this one is specifically for you, but then someone also talked about the refuse truck. I know that's solid waste. So maybe you can also take that back to your colleague that, look, people are saying that the trucks are not getting into Samora. I mean, I was there 2 years ago for a big cleanup, so maybe he can address the community,
Yeah.
or maybe we can have him on the couch.
Yeah, no,
Yes.
100%. And you're not wrong. I recall about 2 years ago, because we acknowledged that getting into Samora was tough, I said to the officials, guys, then let's go in there in our numbers. Let's go in there with urban waste. Let's go in there with urban mobility. Let's go in there with water and sanitation. We all work in the same area. We do what we need to do with the necessary support. We go and then we come back. And at that, about 2 years ago, it was a 2-day blitz is what we called it. And it was great. We got a lot done. But, there are so many other communities that these officials also have to still service. So it's not something we can do frequently, but hopefully that report I made reference to earlier is going to help us find really long-term solutions. But we need the residents to obviously work with us together to protect the pipes.
I've been holding this in since you mentioned the triple Ps. When I worked for the Daily Voice, people used to tell me that when they done reading, they use that in the bathroom. So, yeah, is that also another problem? Because you said paper, so that's
Yeah.
paper too.
Yeah, no. And so I do this thing where I go pee, poo, and toilet paper because the only paper that should go in is toilet paper. Newspaper, and I actually do have pictures of newspapers blocking our sewer system, but I don't know if you want to see that because that's very
No,
visual.
no, no, no.
So newspapers they don't break down, and they form like a ball in the pipe, and the ball gets tough, and then it just blocks the pipe. So definitely not newspaper, definitely not wet wipes, even if they tell you biodegradable. They're not. They're causing overflows and wet wipe balls all over. The other thing that I must mention, and I'm going to ask you a question, not to put you on the spot, but when you're frying your samosas in the month of fasting, we're being multicultural now, multicultural. What do you do, or with any oil? What do you do with your oil? You can phone a friend.
No, I can go to my cupboard and show you that I have a 2-liter bottle with black oil in it.
Great. Because I've now come to learn that residents dig holes in their gardens and then they throw the oil into the hole. I come to learn that residents put sunlight liquid and then what they think is breaking down the fatty component and then it's not oil anymore.
Guilty, I've done it before.
And then what's the other one that I see? Obviously, residents, when the oil is cold, they chuck it down their sinks or they chuck it down the gully on the outside of the kitchen. And that is not something that must be done. Foreign objects, I could clump them all, the hard stuff, but fat, oil, and grease are horrible causes of sewer overflows, especially where there are restaurants. And the mayor did a blitz in the Maitland, Kensington area almost about a month ago, where I joined our water pollution control inspectors, and we open up the fat traps, we open up the drains, and we issue notices, we issue fines because these things are blocking the drains. And so what you're doing is 100% right. You're throwing your used oil in a bottle, and then I'm sure you're either throwing the bottle in the bin or you're recycling the oil because some people recycle oil
For
as
rainy
opposed to.
days. It's for rainy days.
Or that, yeah. When oil becomes more and more expensive, you will recycle your black oil. But so you're doing it right, and residents can really help us remove that the blockage caused by fats, oils, and greases by throwing it into a bottle, keeping it for a rainy day, or putting it into the black bin. Don't put it into a plastic packet. Some people in Mitchell's Plain told me plastic packet. The concept is great, but the wrong device. Plastic bottle in your bin. Let them take it away. Don't throw in drains, please.
Now, I just want to touch on, you said there's a lot of residents in Cape Town. Are our pipes, the 10,000-kilometer pipes, are they sufficient for 5 million people in Cape Town?
Yeah, so I know when I speak to residents, oh, the diameter is too narrow, we're more people, we need wider pipes. The job of the pipe is to get sewage from a home to the wastewater treatment works. We use gravity or we use pumps. Now, I learned this the other day when I was talking to one of the engineers, that in a domestic environment, in a residential environment, if we make the pipe too wide and there isn't sufficient flow, as in there isn't a constant flow of water, because in residential areas, the water is coming when we're flushing, when we're showering, when we're washing. And so you can imagine that there are peaks. In the morning, everyone's washing, everyone's doing what they do. Then they go to school, then they go to work, nothing is happening. And then they come back home, and then there's again that activity. But if you make the pipe too wide, the volume of the pipe, then if it's too wide, impacts the speed of the flow down the pipe. If the volume is too wide, the speed is slow. So what happens then? The stuff settles on the bottom of the pipe. And that settling over time will cause blockages, depending on the volume and the velocity, the speed of the flow. So the engineers have designed the ideal pipe size that can cope with the volume, the amount, and the speed of flows. So it's not about the diameter, it's about the capacity at the wastewater, the end point. If the capacity of the end point is too little or too small, then you have a problem. But the pipes need to move things at a certain speed, they need to move things at a certain volume, and the diameter is not the issue, because it will move. The end point, the wastewater, is what determines whether or not a sewer system can cope or not. Because if it's under capacity, the wastewater facility becomes overburdened, backs up, overflows, and. But if in the ideal way, the 110 millimeter pipe, I think it is the right size according to the engineers. And look, I'm not an engineer, so I am guided by the expertise of the engineers, and I needed to understand this thing of, but why don't you make the pipes wider? Absolutely, in some areas it's necessary where there's been ultra densification, but in the far majority of our areas, increasing diameter isn't going to solve the problem. Not misusing the system will help solve the problem.
So when you say misusing, is when you're not doing
The dumping, foreign objects, vandalism. Can I share also, just as an example, Kandu in Khayelitsha, as you're coming off Muway, is an extension of the Greenpoint community that has moved into the wetlands. Now, we've had many months of engagement with that community, and very early on when I became the MMC, I visited the community because they were appealing for sanitation, they were appealing for water, which we've now made a lot of progress on. But in some communities, there's a main sewer pipe, and then what happens, some communities puncture our pipes, that puncture holes into the pipes, so that in the wetland, the water can then drain away into the sewer system, which obviously overwhelms the sewer system because it's not been designed for water from a wetland. They connect their own sewer systems to it. They also just decant washing water, kitchen water into the systems. And then what does it do? Causes blockages. So all of this is interconnected is the point I want for your viewers to take away.
Okay. So if you just joined in, my name is Mandi and this is On the Couch with Mandi. So if you've missed half of the episode, you will catch it on YouTube. Mandilake Chwete, that's the channel. I will be posting it, and you can also follow us on Facebook, On the Couch with Mandi. That's our page. So I've got a few questions here from Rabia. So she said, I must ask you, how can we as the community contribute to improving water and sanitation services in Cape Flats? I bet you never heard that question before.
That's a great question, and I have not heard that question before. So I'm really grateful because what I take away from the question is, what can I do to help you make sure the system works better for us? And Rabia, genuinely, if somehow the viewers here and you and your family can help spread the word around pee, poo, and toilet paper, we will hopefully over time be able to reduce the impact of foreign objects in our systems. That for me, at the end of my term here, if we can show on a graph that we had so many overflows when I started, and at the end of this, we've seen an improvement, a reduction in blockages due to foreign objects, a reduction, therefore, in overflows, that for me will say I've left this directorate in a better space. And really, that's, I think, the most simple advice I can give. The other one, maybe more practical because we're in a rainy period now, is that thing of making sure your gutters at home are actually connected to drainage into your gardens or onto the road. Because what's happening, Mandi, is that in some homes, the gutters on the roof are connected to the gully outside the kitchen or outside the bathroom, and those gullies drain to the sewer. The gutters on the roof mustn't go to the sewer. They must go to your stormwater. So put it into your garden, put it to drain into the road. Because all of that rainwater in the sewer overwhelms the sewer and causes overflows. Because now you've got this narrow pipe that's filled with rainwater, and because capacity at the end is tight, the only place it's going to go is up. So if you can help me with foreign objects, reducing fat, oil, and grease in homes, only flushing what needs to be flushed, and making sure manholes are not being misused, and if you can help me with your gutters only into your garden or into the road, then you've helped me immensely.
Okay, so what support systems are in place for residents who struggle to pay for water and sanitation services? JJ, I see he said this is a sensitive topic, fixed charges, hashtag.
So I'm going to take you into another explanation, if you don't mind. Because as I said, the fixed charges do a specific thing. One, and I really want to use the opportunity to dispel this thing of a drought tax. And it started in, yes, because the infrastructure investment started in, but it's not such a thing of it's a drought tax. I want the residents to take away a couple of things. Number one, the fixed charge is because the city provides a service into your home. You have access to water, number one. Number two is the fact that when you open up your tap and the water comes out, that you can trust that is drinkable water, best quality, internationally renowned, actually, water that you're drinking from your home. And to achieve that, so much is happening in terms of fixed expenses that the city has to incur. Number one, the cost of chemicals we can predict is a fixed charge for the operational team. Number two, the other fixed charge to produce that water is the electricity cost we have to pay. Number three, a whole bunch of officials, operational team members who also have to be paid for purifying that water to a pristine standard good enough for us to drink. So those are predictable fixed charges as well that need to be paid for. So I've already given you 4 reasons now. And then the fifth one is the issue of our new water program. And I went into that very briefly, and I'll remind you, the removal of invasive alien plants, desalination, water reuse, and new water program. All of these are the city's commitment that none of us here in the city will ever have to queue in a day zero scenario ever, because we're making those investments now. And so that all comes at a cost. Mandi, it all comes at a cost. We're not getting that money from national government. If it is that we are waiting for money from national government, we will find ourselves queuing in a day zero situation, which is unacceptable to us in the city of Cape Town. And so we have to make those investments now so that we can protect our water future. And that is roughly, very simply, what the breakdown of the fixed charge is.
Last question from Rabia. How does the department plan to address the legacy of apartheid era water and sanitation infrastructure in our communities?
Can I ask what that means specifically? Because there's a number of things I can respond to.
I think when they mean infrastructure, it's basically what I was asking you, that because remember, the plan for Cape Town was not for 5 million people, right? It was for those few people. And even when Langa was built, it was built maybe, for 100,000 people. And now it's got 1 million, okay, not 1 million, but it's got a lot of people. Same with Kailicha. Kailicha is growing every day. Mfuleni is growing every day. Delft, all these areas, they're growing every day. Even if you are in the nicer side of Cape Town, you still have a lot of people that will, move there. We've got flats that are being built. We know that the mayor has also approved that people can now build flats, in the backyards. That is also like pressure onto the infrastructure. So I think what she's asking is, this infrastructure that we have, the existing infrastructure, is it sufficient for everyone who's living in Cape Town?
Cool. So I'm going to break it down into 2 things, water provision and sanitation. In terms of water provision, we need to make sure that for a growing city, we have enough water volume. And I've touched on that now in terms of the new water program. So all of that is currently underway. But what I think Rabia is specifically interested in is the reticulation component. So getting the water from the dam, from the water treatment plant to the homes. How are we keeping up with, let's say, densification in the various communities? And so absolutely what we're doing at the moment, on the one hand, is to conduct pipe replacement programs. So there where we have aged infrastructure, where we have old asbestos cement pipes, we are replacing them to the rate of 100 kilometers. And I'm waiting for the final numbers, 100 kilometers for water and 50 kilometers for sewer essentially. And so we are replacing these pipes. In terms of water provision, absolutely, you're right. The city has approved also what is called small-scale residential units, essentially that map that was put out after the last council where those kinds of developments are supported. Recognizing that there's a high demand for rental, essentially, in those areas. And so what is the city doing to keep up with that demand? And you're so right. Because the mayor has already said to electricity, to water, to other utilities, guys, there's a demand here. We haven't kept up with infrastructure demand. So now I need your plan to go in there with water and with sewer. So we need to make sure that those pipes follow. And as part of that SSRU program, that's happening. And then also in terms of the sewer, where there is this densification in those identified areas as part of SSRU, we're actually widening those pipes as well. And in Langa, because I spoke about it with the director this afternoon, we're doing exactly that. Parts of Langa have been identified for this SSRU program, and we know Langa some time ago struggled with sewer overflows as well, and from time to time it still pops up. Different complications there, but we are intending on increasing this pipe capacity as well. And remember, all of this connects to the wastewater treatment works as well. At the moment, Athlone wastewater treatment works is currently being upgraded. 282 million rand currently underway, and in the Potsdam community, in the Potsdam wastewater treatment works. So for the Dunoon, Joe Slovo, Milnerton area, a 5.2 billion rand wastewater treatment works is currently underway. We've also last year taken ownership of our Zandvliet wastewater treatment works in the Khayelitsha area. Also a 5 billion rand project that was completed last year. So all of these are adding on to make sure that our infrastructure investment is addressed, but also upgraded, because that is what the mayor has essentially said he wants, and it's my job to make sure the mayor's priorities are delivered on.
Okay, there is a question, and there are no silly questions on this live. So this question is from Auntie Wildlife. She's asking 2-ply or 3-ply?
My wife would tell you 3-ply. I would say 2-ply for me is sufficient. As long as it's toilet paper that can degrade, that's important. Not newspaper, not material, not, tampons, not pads, because I see all of that being flushed down toilets as well. And I accept the reality of our country that toilet paper is expensive. I know that. And so that is why certain communities go to what they have, newspaper and material and so on. I understand that. But it does unfortunately have an impact on our sewer networks. And as I said, very sensitive to the fact that some are more privileged to be able to access 3-ply or 2-ply, and we joke about it. But there are so many community members who actually, go to what they have. And yes, I accept that, but also just to create awareness around the impact on our sewer system.
Okay, there's a comment. So maybe you can take this to the mayor, or maybe you can speak to the mayor so he can come to the couch. So he's saying that these tariff increases should be abolished because it's draconian. Woo, that my tongue just
No,
cannot.
but Mandi, can I ask Hannes? Why does he say it's draconian? And who then must pay for all of this multi-billion rand investments that are currently underway?
So because I think that you did explain that the reason for the high tariffs, it's because there are these projects that are planned, and somehow they need to be paid, and so some of those these tariffs, some of that, it goes towards those projects. So because people are already paying taxes that should deliver the services, wrong, very wrong. So our taxes can only go so far, and we're dealing now with the city. We're not dealing with national. So SARS is more national, and that is the person that is taking our taxes. But then now we're talking about the city.
But can I also just say that the city does get some money from taxes through the Division of Revenue Act. Parliament is currently debating those budgets at the moment. But national government isn't giving us the fair share of the taxes that it is raising. And worse, they are well aware that the city is making this infrastructure investments, and so should actually support our efforts to do so, because we have a clear track record. Actually, you drive around the city, you see my city, you see waste interceptors, you see all kinds of things happening. We have a track record of infrastructure investment, a clear level of transparency. Residents can see what is happening with their money, but we're not being given our fair share. And so national government is forcing municipalities across the city to use the means available to them to raise funds to fund these multi-billion rand projects. By the way, my budget for water and sanitation now, this financial year, which has just started, 4.9 billion rand. 4.9 billion rand. It's a lot of money that we have to make sure goes into our pump stations, goes into our pipes, goes into taps and toilets in informal settlements, and. So I totally disagree that it's draconian or that it's a drought tax, because I hope, Mandi, that through the opportunity you've shared with me now, Hannes can maybe go back to my breakdown of the fixed charge and just quickly refer to the simple explanation of why that fixed charge, or what that fixed charge covers in our city.
Hannes, I'm gonna upload this on YouTube, and then you can just rewatch it and see when he was like giving the breakdown. And then if you still have more questions, he is available to answer anything. You can just Google his name, his number is there, his email is there, preferably email, because there you can have a record that I have sent this, and this is what the MMC said to you. Okay, so there's this thing that we have old systems that have not been maintained, and we have to deal with flooded homes in winter.
Yeah. And is that from Hannes? Did I miss it?
No. This
Oh.
is anti-spirit lifter.
To Auntie, she's not wrong. Old infrastructure, 100% right. And I'm just looking at my notes here in front of me. The sewer infrastructure replacements, we're investing 1.25 billion rand in expanding and upgrading our sewer infrastructure, which includes the pump stations. And then specifically in terms of pipe replacements, which is the point you make, we're spending about 325 million rand on this financial year alone, again, to replace pipes. Can I say, the World Bank best practice has a municipality replacing its infrastructure at the rate of 2%. When we started in this term, we were under 1%. We're now at least 1%, and it's the mayor's objective to get it to 2%, so that we're in line with international best practice. And that's not going to come that money is not going to come from the tree. And so unfortunately, we have to raise those funds because of the point that Auntie has made. Old infrastructure requires upgrades, and someone's got to pay. Me, Mandi, you, we all have to pay our rates, which contributes ultimately to these investments. And then I just want to point out the water pipe replacements. We're spending 239 million rand on water pipe replacements alone in this financial year. So just a reminder, 325 for sewer, 325 million for sewer in this financial year, and 239 million for water pipe replacements in this financial year. And a lot of other stuff.
Okay. Sorry about that. So we had a listener, I hope he's still here, that said, I mean, I feel that it's fair that I also pose this. I think it's a comment actually. The city or the DA is corrupt. They are not servicing the colored area. Now, I like to ask these kind of questions because then, oh, my city is only in the white areas, and, or the DA is only bringing the service to the white areas, and what about the colored areas? And I mean, I'm black, so I'm going to ask, what about the black areas? So do you have any comment, with regards to that?
So the mayor some time ago put out an infographic of where some of the city's biggest infrastructure investments are currently being made. And I will look for it and I'll share it with you as well so that you have it. And actually the bulk of the infrastructure investment is in the Cape Flats geographical area. Not the community Cape Flats, but the geographical Cape Flats, which is Athlone all the way to Kailicha, basically everything between the mountains, essentially. So I'm also a ward councillor in Ward 48, and in my ward it's a coloured area, I would say. It's multicultural. Everyone lives here, but it's not in the leafy suburbs, as I sometimes get from my residents. We have the My City route being built in my ward at the moment to connect my community all the way, or not only mine, but communities next to me, Guguletu, etc., all the way to the My City Sky Circle and then to the Claremont route. I'm so excited for this project because I don't live too far from where the development is. Hopefully I get to park my car in a car park, finally get into a My City station and take the bus to Claremont, take the bus to the waterfront because of those developments in the area. If I bring it closer to home in water and sanitation, one of the biggest sewer projects in our country at the moment is called the Cape Flats Rehabilitation Program. The Cape Flats sewer pipeline is a long and thick, very wide pipe that has needed rehabilitation after many, many years of use. And so we're undertaking all of that at the moment. Pump stations are being upgraded. Informal settlements are receiving taps and toilets. So much investment. And so I don't agree with what the viewer is saying, because you simply have to look at the My City work in Mitchell's Plain as an example that's going to connect this network to the rest of the city. That is where the development is happening, and it happens in various forms as well. Not only those major bulk projects, but it certainly is happening in the previously disadvantaged areas.
Okay. If you've just joined us, you've missed every single thing that Councillor Badroodien gave us today. It was very informative. Thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Councillor. My name is Mandila Ketwete, and I am a reporter in Cape Town. We had on the couch this week Dr. Councillor Zahid Badroodien. He spoke to us about unsanitary things, and then he talked to us about water. He spoke to us about water, and basically we would love to have you back on the couch. If you feel like you have another project or whatsoever that you feel that you need to speak to people about, please do come back. You are welcome anytime.
I'd love to talk to you about the marine outfalls. I know you maybe wanted to take me there today.
I did, but I said, okay, Mandi, not this week.
You called me
But we will talk about that because that one is quite a vast
controversial
topic, and yes, and also controversial. So then I will invite my friends that created groups and whatsoever about this so that they can be part of this. Maybe we can't just have only you. Maybe we'll have other people also on the panel so we can discuss this. I mean, summer is around the corner. Okay, around two corners. But yeah, we need to have that conversation and find out if it is going to be safe for us to take it deep. Yeah?
I'm really, and thank you for having me. It was really nice to talk tonight.
All right. Thank you so much. If you missed this episode, please, you just have to go onto my channel on YouTube, and then you will see it there. I will upload it before Friday, inshallah. Thank you so much and good night, Badroodien. Dr. Badroodien. Okay, good night. Thank you.
Thank you.